Hello and welcome to this video, webinar, masterclass, whatever you want to call it, about leadership. So I want to share with you some leadership tips. So I'm Sheila Starr. I am the founder of Sheila Starr Coaching. I do career coaching and leadership coaching, confidence coaching, just to help people lead that better lives and have great careers. And I've been a senior leader. I worked in the corporate world for 34 years. I was a senior leader for most of 20 of those. I know that leadership is hard. It is, it's just a hard job. And some people don't make natural leaders. They've climbed the ladder through, technical ability and expert knowledge, and less about the leadership skills. And sometimes we don't get enough support or coaching around it. And we do our best. We absolutely do our best. But sometimes there are things that we can do better, and sometimes there are things that we struggle with. So I today want to share with you a few tips and things that might help you on your leadership journey. Now, there's been a few things to challenge us, hasn't there, over this last few years? Leadership is always hard anyway, but now we've got lots of other things that are challenging us. So we've got the pandemic that we've had, where we've all had to learn to work remotely. We've had to learn how to homeschool children. We've had all sorts of extra challenges come on through dealing with the pandemic. We've learned new technology like Zoom. We've maximised Teams. We've had to push projects forward, cloud-based projects, so that people can work more easily from wherever they are, which is good in some ways, but it has given us all of those things to deal with over this last few years, and that's been hard for people. We've had Brexit, which again, is challenging for businesses. All sorts of challenges have been thrown up because of the Brexit rules. Government changes. I mean, how many prime ministers have we had in the last couple of years? And every time there's a different agenda and different things that are going to impact on your business. And then at the moment, we've got the cost of living crisis, which is impacting probably on you personally and your home life, but it would definitely be impacting on your company and your job. And there are things that we have to think about, the new things we have to put in place. There are balances that we have to make depending on the customers that we're serving. All of these extra challenges, don't help us as leaders. It's just another thing to think about. And then, of course, there's other things going on around like menopause and neurodiversity. So leadership is hard enough, and now we've got to worry about people who might be menopausal, and maybe you're a menopausal woman who's struggling to deal with that. Maybe you're a leader who's got menopausal women in their team, and it's something that you need to consider. The whole neurodiversity agenda now, that so many different categories coming up, things that we have to consider. Now, don't get me wrong, I think it's absolutely brilliant that all of these things are out there. I think it's good that we know that people have got it. I think it's good that people can identify with it and understand their learning styles and the way they work and the needs that they've got. But it's another challenge for us as leaders, isn't it? It's another thing that we have to think about when we're talking to our team, when we're dealing with the challenges that we have already got. And then, of course, there's always change going on, isn't there? Lots of transformation programs going on out there, lots of change. And these are all things that we're doing on top of the day job. They're extra things that you have to find resource for. So, all of these things really challenge us as leaders, really make things difficult for us. But there's a lot of good here. There's a lot of good going on here as well. So, after all that, let's recognize that leadership is hard, and it's okay if you don't know everything. It's okay if you make mistakes, but just, definitely recognize the areas that you need to improve on so that you can become a better leader. Don't just be blinkered and be the person that you always have been. There's always room for improvement for all of us. So let's have a look at a few challenges that things have thrown up. So obviously leading remotely, so many people working from home after the pandemic, and lots of people still working from home. So this does bring up, issues, possibly in your mind, maybe for the people that you're leading, but it's really important that there's one big thing here, and that's about trust. That's about trust both ways as well. Your colleagues your team need to trust you, and you need to be able to trust them. And sometimes you have to let go a bit in order to trust people. You have to let them get on with it. You have to empower them to do things. So here's a few things to think about. If you're not already doing them, then just go away and have a little think about how you could do this better. So firstly, this is all about empowering your teams. So give them set clear objectives so they know exactly what it is that you're expecting from them and the expectations. So if there's a particular way that something needs to be done, or, obviously we're talking about timescales, talking about behaviours, talking about the actual result that you're looking for, be really clear with people, because when you're clear with them, you can then empower them to get on with it. And people work better in that sort of environment. You will get far more out of your team if you trust and empower them. But sometimes it's hard to let go, and particularly when you can't see them. So when they're working from home, you need to be able to trust them to do the job that you've asked them to do. Now, you want to check in with them regularly, but this is checking in and not checking up. So it's about being clear with them that you're checking in on their well-being, you're checking in on whether there's anything they need your help with, any barriers or problems that they've got. It's checking in that they understand what the objectives and the expectations are, but it isn't about checking up, because you're trusting them, remember. So we're not checking up on them, we're not micromanaging them, we're not looking over their shoulder, we're not making sure that they're logged on for every minute of 9 to 5 if they're getting their job done. So check in on them, because checking in, I'm hearing lots of stories at the moment about people who aren't seeing or talking to their managers for weeks on end, and that's not good leadership. Checking in with people and having that conversation like you would if you were in the office, but you can just pick up the phone, Teams them, video, whatever works, even a text if that's what works for people. And remember, everybody needs something different as well. So, don't tar everybody with the same brush. Some people would like a text, some people like a call, some people it's okay if it's once a week, some people need it every day. So just have a think about your team and what works best for them. And then your role is to provide that support, that guidance. So whatever they need, you need to be there for them, whether that's arranging regular slots where they can contact you during that time, whether you're available, most of the time or as you can get to them, but make sure you are available, make sure you are there to support them and guide them with whatever it is that they need. And then the trust also becomes allowing them to make mistakes, because we all do make mistakes, and that's okay. Obviously, we don't really want to make mistakes, but sometimes the best learning comes from mistakes. I know I've definitely had some of my best learning experiences from some of the big mistakes that I've made. But people need to be allowed to make mistakes. Trust them to go and get on the job the way that they want to do it, and then check up on them. Obviously, if it becomes a performance issue, that's a different kettle of fish, and you can go down that route. But most people just need to know that they can learn from these mistakes. Help them learn from the mistakes. Don't take it away from them. Help them work through it to actually correct it, so that they are doing the learning, and no blame. So we are holding people to account here. If they've got something to do, you're trusting them, you're empowering them to get on with it. That means that they need to be accountable for what they're doing, but no blame. There can't be any blame culture, or else people will either not do it well anyway because they're so scared, or they'll let somebody else do it for them, or they'll need your help all the time. So this is all about helping your team grow, but really it's about trust. And the biggest thing I would say here is this is all about focusing on outcomes, not hours. It doesn't matter how many hours they work. If they get the job done that you want them to do, then that's okay. And, don't bring people back into the office if they don't need to be back in the office. I'm seeing a lot at the moment that people are encouraging or even stipulating that they have to be in the office for 2 or 3 days, 2 or 3 days a week. Why? They've just been doing a decent job for the last 3 years working from home. Why do they need to come back into the office? Now, obviously, there are some roles that work better when you're in the office, and there are some occasions where perhaps you want to do team building and get people together so everybody comes in. But don't just do it for the sake of it. Please remember that any job that somebody's doing is all about the outcomes. Any hours is irrelevant, really. So, and actually, let them be flexible. If they work better at 9 o'clock at night, then let them work at 9 o'clock at night and not through the day. Obviously, they want to be there for meetings and anything that is a specific where they need to be there. But otherwise, if it's just work they're doing on their own, then consider letting them do it however they want. Honestly, you will get the best out of people by doing that. Okay, so that's the first thing, leading remotely. Second thing I want to talk about is all about leading with compassion. because, you know, compassion is a funny word, and sometimes it feels like a bit of a weakness, but actually compassion, it's not just a feel-good concept. It's a powerful driver to help people engage better and actually perform better. And you can be strong and have compassion as well. And there is proof out there that compassionate leaders actually have higher performing teams. And we've seen that through COVID with some of the particularly female leaders of countries. New Zealand and I think Finland, you know, have had really good results through COVID because they've had prime ministers that have led with compassion. And being compassionate is all about getting to know your team, really, so that you can actually treat all of them differently. So there's a few things here to help you understand what it means to lead with compassion. So this is really about, you know, listening to your team, proactively listening to them, understand your team, properly understand what drives them, what demotivates them, what's going to stress them out, how they work, because it will be different for all of them. And as a leader, it's your role to tailor your leadership skill to manage the way that they need to be managed. And this will help with the menopausal women. It will help with people with neurodiverse situations as well, because you'll start to understand what it is they need and how you can help them. You know, show empathy to them, actually start to try and understand, ask them questions if you don't understand, acknowledge the challenges and the concerns that they might have as you're talking to them. But obviously this is about giving them the skills, the tools and the attitude to be able to do the job. But if you can understand what their needs are, then you'll be able to provide the tools and the resources that they need to actually do that great job. And also recognize the differences that they have. You know, some of them will have different needs, very different needs. Some of them will have different skills, and that's okay. We want people with differences around them because that makes a great team. But from a compassionate point of view, this is up to you to understand those different needs that they each have, and not just like sheep dip, talk to them all, and recognize the skills that they've got and use those skills. And then one thing I would say about compassion is, you know, sometimes we get a team member where we're just really frustrated, or they really haven't done what you want to do, or you need to, you know, you need to like have a strong word with them. That's all okay. It has to be done. But I would always recommend, when you have a conversation with somebody, ask them first. Don't assume anything, because you don't know what's actually gone on. So whatever's going on, ask them first. And more often than not, you will find that they've already recognized whatever the issue was. They might even feel bad about it. They might have already gone off to actually try and deal with it. So talk to them about it. Have it as a conversation. Why did you feel you needed to do that? How did this come about? You know, can you talk me through why this hasn't been done yet? Ask the questions first rather than telling them off, because of telling off, they just get immediately defensive, and you don't get anything out of that conversation. So have the conversation about asking them. Don't make any assumptions until you've spoken to them. And the trick to great leadership is about being curious and not judgmental. See, when we judge people, we tend to judge them on our beliefs, on our mindset, on the way that we think. And they won't think the same as you. They won't have the same beliefs as you. So judging them on what you think is not going to help you as a leader. You need to get into their brains. So be curious about the way they work and the way that they think, and find out a bit more about their world. And that will make you a much better leader. So this is all about focusing on the strengths of your team, you know, using them effectively. We're not worried about weaknesses. Actually, as a team, we should be able to support each other. But this is all about focusing on their strengths, but understanding them, really get to grips with what they are. And then, you know, as I say, this is not a dictatorship anymore. Leaders used to be dictators, but that is not the way to get the best out of people anymore. So strengths. Now, talking about strengths and skills and differences, you know, we have this challenge these days of leading all these different generations, don't we? We've got baby boomers, we've got millennials, we've got Gen Zs, you know, all of these different things and these phrases that people talk about. And that's fine, you know, actually, we just have to work out how we're going to work together. And it really can be a huge benefit to your team having these different generations around, because having a diverse team, whether that's, you know, whether it's gender, whether it's age, whether it's their ethnicity, actually, let's embrace that, because we want to have different opinions. If we all think the same thing, then nothing will ever actually change and nothing will develop. And although it might be comfortable, we might say, well, we want somebody to fit in with the team. Yes, but actually, do you know, a little bit of conflict sometimes can actually create much more high performing teams. So don't be scared of having that conflict. You just need to be able to manage it. Let's have a think about this. So the best thing here really is to leverage the strength of each generation. So each person and each generation will have, you know, different strengths. So I would say probably, you know, the older generation are probably going to have better communication skills. They've been practicing it for a long time. You know, they're probably more resilient. They've got lots of different ideas and thoughts about the way things could work. Now, some people, the younger generation, will probably see them as a bit staid and a bit boring, perhaps a bit risk averse, and like not keeping up with the times. But actually, sometimes that solid view, that experience, and that good communication can be a real benefit. And then you'll have people at the other end who love technology, don't really do talking to each other anymore. It's all about messaging or Snapchat or, you know, whatever it is that they're using now. But they'll be the people who want to move the technology forward. They'll be the people that want to take a few risks. And this is about managing those things so that they can support each other. Now, I would really recommend encouraging knowledge sharing. Actually get these people together, get them being curious about each other. You know, how have you done this in the past? Oh, what are your ideas on that? You know, actually, perhaps you could teach me a little bit about the technology so I can understand what the future could look like. Oh yeah, and how are you so resilient on this? How are you so reliable? Open up these conversations. Don't hide them. Don't hide behind the fact that there are differences. Actually open it up and get them talking to each other. And then definitely you want to be making sure that everybody is sharing their opinion, because there will be hugely different there'll be hugely different opinions between some of these genders. Obviously, as the leader, it's up to you to manage that and sort of facilitate that conversation so that you get the best out of it in the end. It's not about arguing, it's about healthy discussions and debates and then coming up with the best answer. But for you as a leader, this is about being very open, about listening to all points of view and then working out what's going to happen. And don't pigeonhole yourself. Don't be the stereotype in the group. Make sure that you are the person that is open and listening. Maybe consider something you would never normally consider. Maybe it's something that takes you outside of your comfort zone. And remember, you know, you can try and fail. It's okay to try and fail. Actually, that's how the best things in life have come about, by people trying and failing and trying and failing and trying and succeeding. So don't be scared to do that, and open it up and be honest with your team about it. Say to them, look, you know, I understand there's lots of different views and opinions here. That's a good thing. I want to encourage it. I want to encourage you to work together and think differently. I want you to challenge each other in very constructive and positive ways. So this is about embracing the differences. This is about recognizing that different is good, and actually can really help you move your team forward and have a high performing team. Okay. So I want to talk about well-being, because it is your role as a leader to make sure that your team are, you know, looking after themselves. But firstly, you have to look after yourself. You need to lead by example. You need to show the team that you are managing your well-being, because if they see you working too many hours, if they see you emailing at 2 o'clock in the morning, if they see you being busy, they will emulate that. They will feel under pressure to do that as well, and that is not good for anybody. So remember that a healthy team is a productive team. The better that we all are, the better we will actually perform. So, you know, let's talk about you first, and then all of this is how you encourage your team to do the same thing. But you need to set some boundaries. You need to decide what those boundaries are and how they work for you. But it might be that you say, I'm always taking a lunch break. I'm always going to get away from my desk. It might be that you say, I'm never going to work past 6 o'clock in the evening. It might be, I'm always going to go to my child's sports day. Whatever it is, I'm never going to work at the weekends. Whatever it is, set your boundaries and then stick to it. Make it non-negotiable. Now, I understand that the particular senior leaders is always going to be the odd exception, and that's okay, but as long as it's an odd exception. Otherwise, this is all about you managing your time. And sometimes we make ourselves busier than we need to be. Sometimes we need to actually look at it is what we're doing and think, okay, what are the priorities here? What is it that we really need to get done? Remember, somebody's giving you work, and you need to make some decisions. You have to be able to say no sometimes. You have to absolutely be able to, push back and say, if you want this done, then something else has to give. That's your responsibility as a leader to do that. And then also not to push too much work down. Enough work, obviously, we want people to be busy, we want them to be effective. But as soon as you push too much down, it just gets overwhelming and people don't perform as well when they're doing that. So you have to find ways to manage your time. And there are lots of techniques around managing time, from like time blocking, to the Pomodoro method, where you set like little time scales, whatever works for you. But go and look at those things, decide what it is you need, what is the problem that you've got in your day that makes you not have enough time, and find some solutions. And if anybody wants to talk to me afterwards about various things, then please just drop me an email and we can have a chat. But I'm sure that there are things that that you need to be doing. But this is all about you setting your boundaries. Take your lunch break, because it's not effective. People think that they're going to get more done by working through lunch, but actually not having that break just makes you less effective in the afternoon. So take 20 minutes, go for a quick walk around the building, around your house, your garden, wherever you happen to be. Eat that lunch, but get away from your desk and just recharge for 20 minutes and then come back. You will feel the difference. But you have to make these things non-negotiable. You have to block out your diary and pretend you've got a meeting with somebody else. Because it is absolutely vital to our health and well-being. And again, if your team don't see you taking lunches, then you'll find them eating their sandwiches at their desks as well. So this is all about you leading by example, and then you need to push this onto your team. And you need to recognise this is not all a priority. You need to understand that this is just a job and you want to do a good job, but there are only so many hours in the day. And this is for you and for your team. And then I'd recommend that you open some, that you encourage open dialogue with your team, that you encourage them to come and talk to you about actually how they are feeling, really. And, ask delving questions. Don't just accept the I'm fine. Ask again, ask again, ask again. Ask delving questions into what's going on in their life. How are they coping with their work? How are they feeling? Because sometimes people are not very open about it. And I suspect perhaps you're not very open about it, even with yourself, maybe. But, you can go and talk to your leaders or your chief exec or whoever as well. This has to be an open conversation, because there's so much burnout there at the moment, and it is not good for anybody. Don't let yourself be that person, and you have responsibility for that. This is all about your responsibility. So focus on the balance. This is about it is a job, and it's a good job, but it's not all about work. It has to be about life as well. You have to be able to, you don't want to be completely knackered at the end of the day so that you're irritable with your children or your partner. This is about you finishing the day feeling good. And actually, one piece of advice I would give you here is perhaps before the end of the day, before you finish work and move into your evening, just take 10 minutes and reflect. Really reflect on the day and look at all the positive things that happened. Now, there might be a couple of things that didn't go quite so well. Have a little look at those. Think about what you could have done differently, what you'll do differently next time. But really then focus on all the things that went well, or all the things that just went normally. Because at the end of the day, you want to leave the day thinking, that was a great day. I got a lot done today. This all went well. Because then what happens is that gives you energy. It actually lifts your spirits at the end of the day. And when you leave your work behind and you move into your evening, you've then got this lift, you've got this energy. So when you go and speak to your partner or your children, you can say to them, I had a great day today. And as soon as you say that, you will feel better, rather than saying, oh, that was busy. Oh, I'm absolutely knackered. Give me a glass of wine. The difference is all in your mind. You tell yourself that you're knackered. I'm not saying that you're not going to be tired at the end of the day, but persuade your body that you've got enough energy to go and have a lively conversation with your family. Okay. And then the last thing I just want to talk about is remembering that as a leader, you don't need to do it alone. You know, it's not a weakness to be asking for help. It's okay. All the most successful people in the world, whatever industry they're in, they've all had help. They don't do it on their own. You don't need to do it alone. And it's recognizing that it is actually a strength to ask for help. It is a strength because it means that you're recognizing that you need the support, that this thing isn't going to get done as well as it could be if you do it alone. And leadership can be a lonely place sometimes. Now, you know, the trick here is to find some peer support, find some positive people. You don't want to get peer support from those people who just want to have pity parties, you know, who are always whinging about everything. They are not going to help you. So find peer support from positive people, whether that's internally in your organization at the same level, or whether you go externally into groups that you can, you know, networking groups and other groups in your industry. Go and find people that are positive people that can lift you up. Now, it's okay to have a pity party, but just limit it. It's not going to go on. You might just say to somebody, oh God, this has happened to, I'm really frustrated about that, I'm going to do this instead. But it's a short pity party. You don't dwell on it, you just move on. You recognize it, you think about what you're going to do, and you move on. But you just want to surround yourself and share your challenges. Share your challenges with your peers, with your boss. You can share them with your team, but it's got to be in a constructive way with your team, because you don't want to be pushing your problems onto your team. They're already stressed enough. So, you know, don't be scared to actually share what's actually going on in your life, and you know, find the right people to do that with. Find people that can actually help you constructively find the answers to it. And then get yourself a mentor or a coach. A lot of organizations will pay for senior leaders to have mentors or coaches, whatever it is that works for you. Because, you know, there are people out there, you know, like myself and other leadership coaches who've been there, been where you are, have learned the techniques, and they can challenge you, but they can be your cheerleader. They can hold you to account, but they can guide you and support you. And it's okay to do that sometimes. And sometimes it's good to have somebody outside of your organization, somebody independent that you can be totally honest with and not worry about any repercussions. So I'd really highly recommend finding some way of getting yourself that support. So this is about focusing on your personal development. This is about making sure that you schedule it in, because you're important. And much as you might think you've got all the answers to everything, and maybe you think you're a great leader, and maybe you think you're brilliant at what you do, and I hope you are, I'm sure loads of you, I'm sure you've all got really great skills, but we can all do a little bit better. We can always learn something. And actually, what about thinking about your next step in your career? What can you do to develop your skills so that you can get to that next level as well? So it's really important that you focus on personal development, because this is about fulfillment and happiness. The more that we're learning, the more we're growing, and actually the happier we become. So focus on personal development. And that's it. So just have a little think about you know, how this works for you. Remember that leadership is all about people. So everything you do, think about people, but remember to think of yourself first. So these techniques all around compassion and well-being, personal development, they're all tools for your success. And if I can help you with anything, then please connect with me. I'm on LinkedIn. Give me a shout. If you're looking for leadership training for you or any of your team, then let's have a chat and see how I can help you. Any other questions or any feedback, please just drop me a message. I would love to hear from you. Thank you.